let's start this properly. All right, here's a segment by Dr. Mike. Why doctors are mad at me for my debate. I think he went on Jubilee or something like that. Yeah. 1 and 2, and away we go.
So I went back.
It's not about winning.
It's kind of cool. I'm assuming that's supposed to be a D, but it's a stethoscope.
It's about getting to the truth.
What I would like to see is freedom for me as a patient.
That's one of the things that RFK and the Maha movement represent. He's
That guy looks like he's on edge.
clearly being demonized by the media.
Do you know why he did it?
Yes.
Why?
I can quote you word for word why he did it.
I'm not arguing with you. I agree conflict of
you
research
flip the switch
exists.
so fast and then it's like,
But
whoa,
I
this
agree
is
with
intense.
you.
Aren't
disagree
you
with
mad at that?
I
And today, I'm surrounded by 15 RFK Jr. supporters.
I went for round 2 to do the Jubilee Surrounded series, despite a lot of people warning me that there was no benefit to be had, but I disagreed, so I went back, and I'm about to tell you why. Huge thanks to Ground News for sponsoring this video. When I asked people whether or not I should go back to do Jubilee again, most people said no. They
Sorry, I was just looking at his name. It's like Mikhail Varshavsky. Ruski.
said, you already showed
Kinda
yourself
sus.
to be an empathetic doctor. The content might get too repetitive. You already showed the best side of yourself. What are you gonna get by continuing to argue with people who disagree with you? People in general are pretty down on Jubilee. In fact, I've done multiple interviews with legitimate outlets, Vanity Fair, PBS NewsHour, where it seemed like the people that were writing the pieces had a negative view of this series as a whole, as if having these types of debates were not valuable. And
It's gonna have a run given the intro to this one. Yeah, like I said, I think things need to be discussed. And quite often, like I've mentioned this before, but I think quite often the notion, in an ideal world, if you're presenting like a controversial, divisive topic, it feels like it's best to juxtapose opinions about it, right? If you have someone who comes down on one side of it that you really, like you don't like what they're saying, but, freedom of speech, First Amendment crap, it's nice to maybe juxtapose that person's opinion, divisive as it may be, with another person's opinion, someone on the other side of it, to balance it out a little bit.
actually problematic to society. This is where I disagree. I think that there is tremendous value in having conversations with people who disagree with you, as long as they're done respectfully, of course, because there have been episodes where people just get into this name-calling thing, and I'm not a fan of those episodes, but that's gonna happen when you have two parties that are in disagreement. My first
There's let's play a little bit of devil's advocate here. Like, if I were a libtard, sorry. If I were taking the position of someone on the opposite side of Trump, I would probably say something to the effect that there are a lot of really well-founded fears when it comes to cults of personality, right? Particularly with regards to political figures. And Trump, whatever you think about him, he has style. There are a lot of people who like him, right? And the problem that arises from cults of personality is that they're not so much based upon principles. They're movements that are not so much based upon principles as they are personality, meaning the leader can do a lot of things and they can get away with a lot of things because, again, it's not about principles, it's about personality. That's where the loyalty lies. This person can do anything or become anything and they will still have the loyalty of their followers, right? Trump derangement syndrome, as misplaced and melodramatic as I think it often is, like, from their perspective, they would say that this fervor that they espouse against Trump is the necessary counterbalance to this cult of personality that Trump represents. If I were a libtard.
First episode was great in that I was able to lend an empathetic ear. I was able to provide factual information to people who may have otherwise not been exposed to it. You think about individuals who have been tricked by misinformation, especially when it came to vaccines. I thought I needed to be there for them. So I think the first episode was certainly a win, but I do take some of the criticism to heart and agree with that perhaps I was a bit too passive in the first conversation, that I was perhaps too patient and therefore missed some opportunities.
Is, I think, a tremendous disservice when somebody rattles off all of this and then Mike jumps straight to taking one thing they said and trying to validate them on it.
I agreed with that, and I thought I could be more direct.
It feels like you kind of have to start from common ground. If you're trying to persuade someone, you have to start from some sort of commonality if you want to get anywhere at the very least. So, to be fair, I think to his credit, in the moment, very hard to know what to do. Also, you have a lot of armchair quarterbacking that goes on after the fact where people are looking at it in retrospective and they can say anything or... Yeah, they weren't there, put it that way. I like Dr. Mike in general speaking, in spite of the fact that he's, Russian or whatever, Polish.
Going back for round two, and I thought round two...
What is it? No. Mikhail Warshawski. I'm pretty sure that would be like Polish or something. Mikhail. I have to look this up. Varshav. You can't trust the Russians. To be fair, he's the first result that comes up. No, he was born in Russia. Okay, so he is Russian.
Could be valuable to focus on an issue that I believe is plaguing the United
I once, ironically, actually put a thumbnail of him up saying something about, I think about him maybe being a Russian stooge, possibly. I'm not for sure, though. That would be kind of like life imitating art. No, it was maybe unintentionally appropriate, because I did not know he was Russian at that point.
United States, and that issue is the appointment of RFK Jr. into the Secretary of Health and Human...
For the record, I kind of like RFK, but I do feel like he's a little bit conspiracy-brained. Just a little bit. Maybe. Kind of, ish.
Services position. I asked them to gather individuals who supported him, those who are part of the Maha movement, those who just love him as an individual, who love his policies.
What did he say? Maha? Like MAGA, but with health or something?
And I said, I want to debate these, but I want to debate them a little bit more direct. I want to be a little bit more provocative. And there were actually times during the debate where I raised my voice, which was a little uncomfortable for me. Being a doctor who's trying to be as level-headed as possible all the time, that's not a position that I normally find myself in. I never raise my voice with patients, and I feel like these conversations are similar in that way, in that they should...
To be fair, I think people were willing to forgive a lot of stuff if they think you're genuine, and if they think that you care about them, and they think that you're genuine. I think they're willing to take a lot of stuff, right?
Be kept very respectful, but at the same...
To be fair, there's nothing that irks me more than someone who's like patently like faux considerate. Like there's just this like almost manipulative. Oh, and how do you feel about like? Oh, shut up. Just be real. Just be real.
At the same time, I thought it was valuable to show the level of passion that not only I feel, but my colleagues have been feeling for a very long time. In watching it back myself, I thought I did a pretty good job balancing being an active, empathetic...
Oh, here's a point to be heard. Like, it does feel like you only ever hear the worst stories when it comes to news. So, like, those are the ones that are the most popular, obviously. Meaning the doctor that, takes money or takes bribes or might not give their patient or whatever. Like, out of 1,000 doctors, maybe that one doctor that does it really badly or is, motivated by not the best things. Like, that's the one that's going to stick out in our heads, right? The person whose botched heart surgery kills them or something like that, right? That's the story that's going to sit out. Like, the ones that go well, you never hear about them. So there's this type of... There's a type of bias, I think, that goes hand in glove with news collecting, right? Where it's only the astonishing, it's only the out of the ordinary that comes to the forefront quite often, right?
Pathetic, attentive listener.
Well, and even of that, it's quite often, I think, the bad news is quite often the one that people will click on most often, so I think there would almost also be a bias towards that as well.
With going to bat for my colleagues, science researchers, science in general, and allowing people just to see the flip side.
He's like, science man. Never fear, science man.
Of the conversation, but being a good person, meaning that the people who I was disagreeing with, I didn't want them to hate me because I felt
Just, never fear, science man is here. He can penetrate your body with x-rays and see all the...
like if we created a
You could probably get some sort of cheesy 50s advertisement for that. All right, I'm going to rewind this a little bit.
people who I was disagreeing with, I didn't want them to hate me because I felt like if we created a hateful relationship right at the outset, no one's mind would be changed. No one would get any meaningful
It's not wrong.
value out of these interactions. And it actually worked quite well. Even walking in, I think I made a joke sitting down at the chair, which last time I didn't. I was so nervous. This time I was a little more comfortable, made a joke about the government shutdown. Everyone laughed. It kind of put everyone in a better place. And then as feedback started coming in, I saw comments from some of my colleagues, and it got me a little bit upset. It pulled at the heartstring because right now in the healthcare community, especially those who are trying their best to put out evidence-based content, we're all on the same page. We're all trying to do the best that we can. We all have different ways of doing this. I have the YouTube channel, the podcast. We do we all have different ways of doing this. I have the YouTube.
This is a dude, I think I've seen a whole bunch of shyster health whatever. Right? You have to look that up.
Channel, the podcast. We do silly videos with meme reviews, more serious, hard-hitting interviews with people who've been impacted by Maha. Other people make TikTok videos, dancing with hula hoops,
Okay,
whatever.
now I have to look up Maha now. This is irking me. Maha movement. Make America healthy. Okay, gotcha.
It is. Everyone has their own little strategy. And I think that's great. I think that's the power of social media. But then when our own group starts attacking each other, that's where I feel like we're setting ourselves back, especially because the criticism that was put forth.
I'm gonna push back on Dr. K here a little bit as well. Does the fact that you're all kind of attacking each other also mean that there maybe is room for a little bit of so maybe a little bit of wiggle room for some creative health stuff, if even in the I guess maybe this is just critiques of the technique of how he was doing it. Maybe not critiques of the method, like the medical methodology itself. But yeah, it feels like if there is no absolute consensus in the medical industry itself, then perhaps there's room for interpretation as to what is the correct thing with regards to, especially to perhaps vaccines or stuff like that. You know, if there's not some ubiquitous universal opinion on it, maybe it's more of a choose your own adventure type of thing. Sometimes.
Here, I think is similar to the criticism I heard starting my social media platforms. The doctors that first heard about my wishes to put out evidence-based content on social media were saying it's not valuable, it's not professional, it's not going to help anyone, you're not changing anyone's mind. When I see
To be fair, I think there's an element of this that just goes hand in glove with the notion of trying anything different. Like, you will automatically attract people who are critiquing what you're doing and saying, oh, it's stupid or whatever. And once it becomes venerable, then those same people will espouse it themselves. I guess, I don't know. Feels like that type of thing just happens. I hate Jubilee.
comments like this about the format being bad,
acting like debates is about opinions rather than one side and right and wrong. Yeah. There is a point to be made that sometimes I think like two people sitting down and talking with one another for like an extended period of time would actually maybe be a better format for this type of thing, rather than like 5-minute debates where you really don't have the time to like track everybody's points down to their origin and investigate that.
I feel like it's in a similar vein. It's judgmental in a way that I don't believe is beneficial to the cause of evidence-based medicine. These Jubilee debates oftentimes devolve into shouting.
If they're devolving into shouting matches and you don't want that, I would not get Piers Morgan. I'm not saying he's necessarily a bad guy, although I think in England they have some other opinions because they would have had him a lot longer than America has. But if you've ever seen Piers Morgan Uncensored, he seems to have a knack for getting the most controversial individuals possible on there. Hang on.
Matches, disagreements where no one comes together. I see why people criticize that. But if you took a 5-minute watch, a 10-minute watch, a 30-minute watch, if you were gracious enough to watch the entire episode, you'd see that this episode was far from that. Humans saw other humans across from them. They heard one another out. We agreed, we disagreed, we had some commonalities. Ultimately, I think that's a win. Bringing people together to discuss issues is a huge win. And
that's a good idea. I think generally when people talk, it's better than the alternative, because when people stop talking, that's when the guns come out. All right, that's probably a good place to end it if you want to take a look at this. Why doctors are mad at me for my debate. Dr. Mike, you can check that out. Nice guy. Again, in spite of the fact that he's a Russian. Sorry.